And we are back here on the Zero Empty Spaces podcast. This is episode 26 with Boca Raton Innovation Campus resident artist Patricia Lappin here at her studio at The Brick, aka the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. If you didn't know about Zero Empty Spaces, myself, Evan Snow, and my business partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, as arts advocates and community builders, started an initiative to activate vacant commercial real estate to make affordable artist studios for artists like her to have a space to create and collaborate in outside of their home affordably. It's work to advance the appreciation for art, help the public discover art, help support commercial real estate. But the point of the podcast is to connect you with talented resident artists like her that make the program what it is. So without much further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself at a high level and how you got into the arts?
Okay, thank you very much. I started as a child with teachers sending notes home from kindergarten, very advanced for a 5-year-old. So I never stopped. And at 10 years old, I went to the St. Louis Art Museum. I lived in the suburbs of St. Louis. And it was like, oh my God, this is not something just kids do. I can do this for the rest of my life. And I ran home and said, Mom, I need art lessons. So she and I and a few neighborhood kids got together, a little group, and we went to the local high school and talked the high school art teacher into starting Saturday morning classes.
Oh.
And it was, she kept that going for 30 years, but I was her first student.
Wow.
I stayed with her for 4 years. I'm very determined to learn all I can, and I just love painting. I love pushing paint around. We, of course, worked in watercolor, and we did crazy stuff like crumpling up paper and using sponges, and I remember all of that very, very well.
Early impressions, early impacts.
When I got to high school, went to Catholic schools, and the nun said, oh, you can be my assistant because you already know all this stuff and we can help these kids. So that's what I did for 4 years in art. Then I went to college for 2 years in art, and they were aiming me toward illustrating cards for Hallmark in Kansas City, which is a nice way to make money, but I was like, no, I want to paint like in the museums in St. Louis. I don't want to do that. So I ended up leaving and got married, moved to Connecticut, found my mentor. I was with him for 5 years as Cesar Sorigliano. He was a commercial artist and fine artist in both watercolor and oil, and he went and saw my work, and he said, okay, how hard are you willing to work? And he took me on as a private student, and I was with him for 5 years, so that's my college education right there.
How about that?
We were an hour out of the city, we'd go into the museums, and we'd tour things, and he'd have me doing copies and trying different things, different mediums, and I had it in my head early on that if I couldn't do people, because that was my first introduction at the St. Louis Art Museum, was big monumental paintings of the Virgin Mary going up into the sky, that I wasn't a real artist. So I had to do oil portraiture. And so I did finally master that, and then I went, well, this is boring. Enough of that. So then I took the next thing on, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And so here we are.
Here we are.
So now we're doing abstracts in acrylic, my last medium to conquer. And I am having the time of my life. I am having so much fun.
So for the naked eye, or for somebody that might not know what they're looking at, tell us a little bit about your current body of work and mediums that you're working in here.
Sure, love to do that. Acrylic paints I always thought of as inferior to oil. Oil was the classic, thousands years old,
right.
And the original acrylic paints were kind of garish color, plasticky looking. They've really improved it so much. And what's wonderful about it is it's almost like watercolor if you thin it down, and it's also like oil paint if you add thickeners and make it thick. So I had the best of both worlds. So I can do layers. I can also use watercolor pencils. I can use a palette knife. I can use a paper towel. I paper towel paint a lot. I paint with my fingers. I paint whatever intrigues me. But I have so much schooling by now because I've lived so long that I know, but I have. That I've taken classes with so many people, I've read so many books, I've seen so many shows, that I really have a classic art background. It's not just throwing paint on a canvas. There's structure. And a recent course that I took helped me dig down into what I've loved doing in all of my paintings through my whole life. And I do find I have to have structure. I can be wild and crazy, and then I have to come in and I get to get some sense of architecture. So I drew floor plans as a kid just for fun.
Okay.
So, I mean, I liked all those squares and alleyways and angles and stuff. So this is one of the reasons I'm here at this beautiful space you have at the Brick, because I can work bigger than I can work in my apartment.
Interesting.
So these three panels actually abut one another and make one big painting as a triptych.
Okay.
So it is 40 inches tall and 90 inches, all three pieces together.
Very interesting.
And this one is titled The Crooked Path. And you see my white section moves through the panels. And it's part of the series that I've been working on since COVID hit, called Connections. And it's how the whole COVID thing has changed how we connect with other people. You see, we're pretty close right now, but we have been, and so it's like, hello, oh no, I can't, oh hug, no, we can't hug. So all of that, that's all been part of it. So we have had to learn how to continue to keep, even with a crooked path, to make connections with family, friends, people far away, people that are next door neighbors.
Yeah.
That we kind of, hi, good to see you, and that's all you get. So.
Yeah. It's interesting how art is communication, art is history, art is storytelling.
Storytelling.
And in these crazy times that we're working our way through, it's I always love the power of art. How maybe has COVID impacted your work, or changed your work, or changed some of the things you did with some of the Zooms you participated in?
Changed a bunch. I was headed a whole nother direction. I actually, when the governor closed down the state of Florida and said all events are canceled, my car was packed full of paintings. I was on my way to my first Florida outdoor show, and it was like I had just gotten up the courage to say, I'm strong enough, I'm healthy enough, I can do this, let's get out here and do these tent shows. And I was going that whole direction, and boom, there it is. And so for 3 weeks it was pretty depressing, like, now. And I'd only been in Florida a few years, and I was still finding my way. What's the best way to show my work, market it?
This was in March 2020.
In March 2020. And so that's when I said, okay, this is my chance. This is only going to last 6 months. You know, we'll be good by the summer. So I said, well, I'll start really diving back into the acrylic abstracts and see what happens. And so I messed around for a little bit, and then of course COVID kept going and going, and I had the opportunity through the Palm Beach Watercolor Society to teach online courses, and through the new studio up in Jupiter also I did courses for them. So I developed some Zoom courses that kind of kept me going, but eventually it was like, I need more interaction with people when I'm teaching them, trying to do it through the camera lens and not see what they're doing and not watch their body language and not see their facial expressions. I'm not intuiting what's happening.
Point the camera this way. No, I can't see.
Yes. Hold the painting up. Can you see this? Can you see it? No, I really can't. So so I finally stopped that, and I am back to teaching personally. A lot of masking, a lot of social distancing still, and I do have private students here occasionally, just one at a time. And I work for a couple of different communities in their clubhouses.
Lovely. And we'll plug some info if you find any of this interesting. We'll share that at the end. But you also shared something when we had lunch a couple weeks ago, interesting, on the flip side of teaching, on the student side. What were some things that you did to further your...
Yes, so this was March of 2021, a year later. I was floundering in my own work, not knowing where it was supposed to go. And I found a course by Nicholas Wilson, and it's Art for Life, Art to Life, the Creative CVP, Creative Visionary Program. He runs it once a year. It's a 3-month-long online, 5-day-a-week program.
Intensive program.
Intensive program. And that got me going, and it helped me understand where my personal work needed to go regardless of what I was teaching. Teaching kind of dumbs me down a little bit because I'm back to basics, and we're doing florals, and we're doing landscapes, and we're doing people,
technique.
And we're doing technique,
Yeah.
and my personal work was definitely suffering. So this intense part of staying home, getting up every morning, working, looking at their videos, doing their online, it just broke me open. And then I found you and this wonderful spot and said, okay. They had us do a desire board, which was very interesting. The very first thing we did was a desire board of where do you want your art to be? Where do you want to be? What do you want?
That's interesting.
And they said, don't be little about this. Go big. You know, put it out there in the universe, because if you don't, it ain't going to happen.
That's right.
So on my desire board, I was like, I'd like to work bigger, and I wrote that big. And then I thought, real tiny at the bottom, a studio outside my house. But I wrote it, but I was like so tentative writing it. I thought, this can't happen. No way can this happen.
Had you ever had one before?
No, always worked at home, always had home studios.
Or art center, or...
Art center,
Yeah.
studio, yeah, but
Yeah.
nothing that was my private
Right.
outside space that I was paying for and supporting and doing, and
Well, so that CVP really worked.
It's changed my life.
When you explained it to me, it is intensive, obviously multiple days a week, and
Yeah.
the commitment, and then
Yeah.
all those things, but it really is beneficial, and helping continue to evolve. I hear people talk about like vision boards.
Yes.
But this was a
desire board.
desire board.
In a sense, it's a vision
Yeah.
board. Where do you envision yourself? An envisionment board. Where do you see yourself? What do you want for your life? Where do you want to go?
That's great.
And it is great. And it was hard. Some people, they found it easy. I found it hard. It's not anything I've ever, it's almost like, it's all too private.
Sure.
It's nobody's business. I'm not putting this out on a board where
Sure.
someone can see this. Oh my God. You know, well, of course, they didn't want you to hand it in or anything.
Sure.
But
I appreciate you sharing that with us.
That was a tough one, and I'm now teaching that because of the the way it worked for me.
Yeah.
The good things that I got from that. I'm teaching a class in May in Arkansas, and the morning class is called Making Your Mark. And it's going to be all about not how to paint something, but why do you paint it?
Right.
And what kind of juice do you need to keep you going? And just from my personal experience, I can now share that information that I learned.
That's great, and understanding your why. And I mean, people talk about vision boards or journaling, and they really are impactful when you do write down something.
Yeah.
If you commit to it in your mind, if you commit to it, accountability-wise, and the fact that you wrote down that you wanted to have a studio, and now you were able to manifest that, fills my heart with joy, and I'm glad to support you.
It was amazing. And it was one of my students who happened to stop by your spot at the Boca Center.
Okay.
And she said, she called me on the phone right from there. She said, "You need to get down here. They've got 2 spots and you need one of them." And I called you that day and sent you the email, and I was
here we
there
are.
in July. And
That's a beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing.
So now that you have had this experience,
Yes.
and now that you've been with us in 2 or 3
This
locations.
is my third,
Right.
my third space.
So we did move a couple times to Boca
Yeah.
Center from the original space, second space, third space, and now we're here at the
In
Boca
7
Raton
months.
Innovation Campus. Big thanks to Vice Mayor Andrew Levine O'Rourke for helping make this happen, and Crocker Partners and my dear friend Gianna for helping make this happen. But so now that you've had this space
Yes.
outside your home,
Yes.
what has having a studio outside your home meant to you? Any success stories or anything that you want to share?
Some interesting things are happening. It's like, yes, I'm painting bigger, but we had an opening for another people here that when the NFT
Yep.
night,
Mhm.
a lot of their people came in to see us and visited, and I had contact with 3 different art, I guess, dealers,
Oh, wow.
gallery owners, 2 in Miami and 1 in Palm Beach.
Okay.
And the Palm Beach one is already has my work online in her online gallery,
Okay.
and I'm featured in her ad in the May Atlantic magazine. My work is featured there, that painting right there.
And that came from the night of the NFT gallery opening? Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. The other 2 I have sent off images to, and I need to do a follow-up, but I haven't heard back from them.
Okay.
But I have also heard from a nonprofit group called the Florida Keys Watercolor Society, and they've asked me to submit a proposal to teach a mixed watercolor media class, 3-day workshop for them in January of 2024. So we're
Okay.
moving on out.
Okay, looking ahead.
Sure. And I'm going to Arkansas, to where I had information for years with the art center there, and they've invited me back to teach 2 classes. And all of it is based on what I'm putting on Instagram
Which you do very well.
for this work and what's happening in my life, and I tell stories about what's going on and how things are working, and it's a beautiful thing.
Do you care to share? I know we've had some very interesting, candid conversation about your success or impact through Instagram. What has these tools like Instagram done for you or helped you with?
Instagram, the personal part of Instagram is that I am in contact with artists all over the world who work I admire and who are responding back to me, and we are communicating through Instagram. They're just short little notes, but they're, "Oh my God, love what you just did," da da da. And it's very, it lets me see myself as an artist in a bigger picture
Yes.
than I have been before.
Yes.
And my goal from that first art class when I was 10 was to be the best artist I can be. And when Cesar Srigliano asked me how hard I wanted to work, I said, as hard as I have to work to be the best I can be. And he said, well, what does that mean? I said, I have no idea because I'm not there yet. So I can't tell you. I can't tell you what that means. I mean, I couldn't put a dollar amount on it.
Right.
I couldn't say it means I'm in a gallery. None of that meant anything. It was how good can I take my skills? How far can I push my skills? And I took portraiture as far as I could. I did a beautiful portrait one time. I said, no, it's not, because it wasn't fulfilling me.
Right.
It was something I did because I had to do it. But once I did it, it was like, done, check that off the list, what's next?
Right.
So I've done landscapes, still lifes, people flip that back, become a gardener, do my gardens with the portrait of the gardener, back and forth. Just, it's a life. It's all I've ever done. I've been so grateful that my husband and I decided we could live a little lower if I didn't work, but I could have this.
Amen.
And stay home with our son, and I had a studio at the house over the garage, a big 25 by 25, 12-foot ceilings, skylights. It was gorgeous. So that was my Connecticut studio for a while. So my son was young. He could school up the hill, so that worked. But now I'm in a little condo here by myself. So
everything happens for a reason.
This.
Well, no, it's a beautiful thing, and it's been a journey. And you're right. You never would have imagined when you were 10 years old that you would be here, that this would be here, that the work would evolve, and also not for nothing. And I know that you exhibited, but Patricia was the first artist to exhibit at our communal reception gallery at the entryway to the space here, where we're giving the front walls to resident artists on a bi-weekly rotating basis. So
and it was very nice to have. I have to appreciate it. That one painting, if I can brag a little bit.
Please.
One painting where I have my sign, the little table, that 36 square called Verdant Fields. It's had almost 3,000 likes on Instagram.
That's what I was. Yes. That was.
Like,
and how many followers do you have on Instagram?
I have over 5,000. I've been on Instagram 2 years.
That and
I know nothing. I'm not very techy, but I appreciate what Instagram is. I understand how it works emotionally.
Sure.
I don't understand the physical parts of what buttons to push, etc.
Sure.
But yeah, emotionally I understand it.
To get to 5,000, everybody knows A is no small feat, and then B, I don't think I'm sorry. I know I've never had a post get 3,000 likes for sure, because generally, I mean, the old school rule of thumb, and they changed the algorithm, and it always changed. But it used to be like if you got 10% like to follower ratio, that was good. So 5,000 followers. If you got 500 likes, that was like good.
And that was my good.
Right.
A year ago. Now my good is 5,000. I mean 2,972.
Sure. No. And it opens the doors. You never know who's going to see it. Who's going to tell a friend who you inspire. And I'm so glad to hear that sometimes these things are going to pay off monetarily in terms of sales and dollar amount. But sometimes some of these things, at least for me personally, professionally, and I think for you as well, if they could pay off in terms of rewarding and enriching your life and fulfilling your life in terms of the experience of being able to create what you want to create, being in a space where you're able to be amongst your peers and your contemporaries, ideate and create, potentially collaborate. That's what makes for a rewarding and fulfilling life as a creative person.
That's what it's all about. That the money just allows you to buy more paint.
Canvases.
Pay the rent.
Yeah.
And that's all great, but it's the process of making the art that is what keeps me going. It's not the sales. It's not the finished product. Once the finished product, okay, you're done. Next.
Right.
What's next? So we have a different perspective on it. We honor what we finished. It's the best I could do at the moment, and it's done, and it told the story of the moment. But now, what's next? What's the next thing to do? So.
Amen. I'd like to show them some more of your space and maybe some of your process here, so we'll show them around a little bit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your studio here?
All right, so you can see the messy part. All arts have messy parts. That's actually been cleaned up, so it doesn't look too bad. Sometimes it's really piled up. I use golden paints. I have these bins under here filled with extra small canvases. This one's filled with other paints, and my toolbox with my hammer and my screwdriver, my paper towels. This is all golden paints in here. And then I have brushes. I have lots of brushes. I'm a brush junkie. But I have gotten to the point where I hate to clean them. So these are my tools. I put a lot of paint on with things like squeegees. This is a wallpaper or a plastering knockdown knife. And I literally can come to a painting. This is when I'm working. This is my work group here. I can squeeze out some paint and then scrape it like that to get it on fast. I couldn't get it on that fast. And I like the haphazardness, the surprise of it. You can get a lot of paint moving and you can get marks that you could not invent. I use old credit cards, pieces of cardboard, membership cards that are flexible. Again, you're just scraping paint on here. You can draw lines with it. And then this is a straight edge, just from the paint store. These lines are all pretty loose, but occasionally you just have to have a straight line. And it's about differences, it's about opposites. So if I have all these loose, wavy lines, then right here, I took a crayon and I took this and I made sure I got a really straight line with that. And just line that up. And the difference between this and that as a line is just more interesting than if they were all straight and beautiful. So for these paintings, this little guy down here, if you can see that, that just started with colors in my sketchbook here that I was playing with to say, what kind of colors do I feel like messing with today? There you go. So that was where that started. Then another page, I started doodling with my magic marker. Oh, and I tried some colors. And then this is this piece. This is actually 2 canvases. Don't know if you picked that up or not.
I did not, but now I do.
But you can see that these 2 canvases, so I was drawing them and getting the idea of how I would have them so that they would then fit together. And this is that painting there. So that's how I work. All these fun things.
Very nice. Where do you get these supplies from?
We have a Jerry's Artorama down in Deerfield Beach that I can drive to in half an hour, so
that's right.
I go raid them.
Hey, Jerry's.
And they usually have what I need. I do like the golden paints. They're so superior to some of the others. I don't have any problem with anything they make. I just love it all. I love this is soft gel gloss. I buy it now in the big containers. I buy the Jerry's Artorama gesso. And I use it as a white paint when I'm doing large pieces. This is all white gesso, not just paint. It already has titanium white paint in it, so it's opaque enough that you can use it as a white paint substitute for mixing, for making your own colors, which I also do. I mix up, when tubes are almost empty, I squeeze all the different colors blues in and then just see what I get and then add gesso until I like it. And these are from this painting.
Very nice. How about we show them your exhibit in the front of the space?
All right, that'd be great.
So Patricia was the first artist to be selected to curate a solo exhibit at the front of our Zero Empty Spaces location in Boca Raton Innovation Campus. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at?
Well, this is the Verdant Fields painting that got so many likes in my Instagram account. And you know, you can tell I like green, so you know, it's my color. And this, of course, is the the triptych of the Crooked Path. You can see the whole thing there. See some of those textures.
Really interesting cross-sectionality of different colors here.
Because you never quit. And then over here, I have another triptych that is called Deep Blue. And these 3 panels were something else, and I have now painted over that something else. That was one of my early abstracts. Didn't like them anymore, so I painted over them, and here they are.
Amazing.
Much happier.
And if they want to see more of your works, where can they find you on the social medias and the interwebs?
Mostly Instagram as Patricia Lappin Art.
Okay, and if they wanted to take a class or a workshop, what do you have coming up as available?
I have private lessons here at the studio.
Okay.
Then I give lessons at different communities. So if it's a local community that has a clubhouse and they want some classes, I'm getting ready to send out notices to people. I teach at Coral Lakes community a watercolor class on Friday mornings. And a lot of people have left, so we're down to like 2 or 3 students right now, so it's very private. But it's only Coral Lakes students.
Okay.
You have to live in the Coral Lakes community. And that would be most of the places where I would work at a community would be community only.
And if they happen to be listening to this from Arkansas?
Yes, I'm going to the Arts on Main in Van Buren, Arkansas. I arrive May 10th and I'm there for 2 weeks. I'm going to be giving classes on Saturdays and then other events during the week where I'm going to do promotion for them. What happened there is they were a little art center that was artist started, and they were in an old church when I was in Arkansas from 1998 to 2016 I left. I was on their board of directors, I had shows there, I taught classes there, and they were in a campaign to build a new art center, and the new art center has now finally opened, and they've invited me back for their grand opening to do some PR for them and reacquaint myself with people that were my clients and students when I lived there. And it's a very, very vital place.
Well, we're very glad to hear that.
Yeah, Fort Smith, Arkansas, they're on the Oklahoma border. They're the second largest city in Arkansas. When I first got there, it might have changed now. And there were only 85,000 people in there. So Arkansas is a very rural, a lot of state lands with hills and streams and waterfalls and places to go, so I did a lot of plein air painting there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad to have you here at the Brick.
Thank you so much.
And while she won't be here on May 19th, you can come for the grand opening reception of our Zero Empty Spaces location at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, which is also the former IBM headquarters. We're located right outside the Lynn University NFT Museum, which is a pretty cool thing here. And there's actually a couple other exhibitions coming up. I believe the Palm Beach Watercolor
Society is going to have 100 paintings. They'll be up for 6 months and then change. It's a permanent exhibition for them. It's juried. Their members have to go through a jury process to get their work here, and they're very thrilled with it. I'm going to help them out as a volunteer. I'll be hanging the show for them, and I will have 3 pieces in the show also. Beautiful.
And we also have some other art throughout the building. We're going to add some more art throughout the building. So definitely give us a follow on the social medias at Zero Empty Spaces.
Absolutely. Find
out more workshops, events, artist talks, opportunities to meet the artists. And we definitely appreciate you tuning in. And if you know an artist that's looking for studio space in Boca, I think we actually have 2 or 3 left. So give us a call or an application and be glad to help you out. And we are very happy for you, Patricia, and hope for nothing but the best.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.